the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it all!
What's up, guys? We're back to go over the recap of UFC 281 this weekend. What a card. I mean, I think starting on the undercard, before they even got to the main card, they had already broken their record for, I think, 7 first-round knockouts, which is pretty wild.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It started off, the whole card was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I actually didn't end up watching it until the main event happened, so I didn't see anything from any of the undercards.
You didn't miss anything because all the guys that I wanted to win struggled a little bit.
Yeah, I saw Wally lost.
Man, Hooker looked phenomenal. He looked better than he's ever looked, and his opponent needs to go to wrestling practice.
All right, yeah, let's jump in and talk about that. You and I texted a little bit during this one. POIRIER looked like, it seemed to me that he felt like his only option his only way to win was a leg lock, and he didn't believe he could win any other way.
Well, I don't know that he thought that was his only way to win. I think he thought it was his only way to get to the ground. You know, he couldn't take him down with a shot. He got sprawled on. So he dove right in on the Eminari roll, trying to set up the leg lock. And he got close at the beginning, you know, when he was still sticky. Yeah. And then once that went away, man, Dan Hooker's teep kick to the belly, that front snap kick to the stomach that Connor does really well. Second one, you could see it hurt him. Third one, he was dying. Fourth one, it was a wrap.
That was it. And he even had a round in between. He went right back to it. Wasn't there a round in between? He came out right at the beginning of round 2, and that's when he did that? Yeah.
He had landed a couple of them in the middle to the end of the first rounds, and then went right back to it, and you could tell right away he was hurting.
Were you surprised that was POIRIER's attack? I mean, it seemed like he could have lots of ways he could have gone.
Yeah, I had not seen him fight before.
Okay.
I knew he was coming off, I think we talked about 4 or 5 wins, and Hooker was coming off 4 losses, and it was just kind of for me, I was like, well, I'm probably going to go with a guy that's got the steam behind him right now, you know?
Right.
And I'm glad I was wrong on that, because I like Dan Hooker a lot, and he looked really good. He was crisp. His defense was very good. He was very calm. When the guy was on his leg, he was calm, and it was just good to see him get back in the win column.
Talk about that leg lock for a second. Is that a difficult is it difficult to set that in? And how did POIRIER look when he was trying to put it on? Did it look like he knew what he was doing?
Yeah. Once he got there, he did. He got it tied up pretty well, and his hips were above Dan's knee, and that's what you need. You know, once Dan's knee is visible from the back, he's out. And he had it deep for a little bit. He was starting to switch at one point as well when Dan was trying to spin out. He was trying to switch to what we call double trouble, and then he would have been in a lot of trouble again, and he ended up getting out of it. But what happened was, at one point he could have sprawled, got out, and then got up, and he tried to stay on him. And I think his corner went wild on him, was like, get up. And then he got up and, you know, did his thing. But he had gone through all of that to escape, and then kind of tried to stay on top and try to ground and pound. Like, no.
Yep. Hooker seemed crisp, but it also looked like the jabs that he was throwing, they didn't look like there was much to it. Was he trying to set him up, or those just feints? Because the jabs looked a little soft to me.
Yeah, I mean, so that guy had one goal, right? It was to get to the ground. And if you overcommit on any strike, whether it's a jab or a cross, you know, or a hook, you're leaving yourself open to the shot. And that guy was going legs first, feet first, head first. He didn't care. He just wanted to get it to the mat. So Dan was kind of peppering him, just touching him a little bit, maybe either to get him to shoot so he could throw an uppercut, you know, or a knee. He was feinting knees a couple times. So he was just, you know, he was being smart, not overcommitting to that.
He sure, those front snap kicks, like you said, those were devastating. And
They're
I mean,
beautiful.
it took him out. The card said it was barely into the second round, 54 seconds into round two when
Yeah.
he ended it. I wasn't sure there was another one when Puelles went down and the ref is like, "Get up, you got to get up," and he answered that time. But you wondered if he got it again, if he was going to be able to answer, and he didn't.
No, I think he wanted out at that point.
Yeah, I think he was done. Are you excited for Hooker? Do you think he's back in it? I know he's had some struggles a little bit. They talked a little bit about it. What do you see coming up?
I hope so. I'm not sure where he is in the rankings, but I'd like to see him, get a couple fights that aren't top 5 guys, maybe somewhere in the top 10 or out that direction, get a couple more wins and build up his confidence and let him start cracking back at those guys again.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can find where he is here. I may not be able to grab it real quick, but yeah, I'm hopeful that win helps him out, and I'm hopeful that it gets him moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and his losses are all to like the top guys in the division. He fought the best guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool.
Next fight, man, Frankie Edgar, and Chris Gutierrez. First of all, I was shocked at how quick this fight was. It's 2 minutes 59 seconds in round one.
Yeah, like I said, they both had a clear path to victory. Chris's stand up is next level, man.
Yeah.
He is phenomenal. I had him out to my gym for a seminar, before, and his calf kicks, his hands looked great. His knee obviously looked great, but he was moving and twitching and feinting nonstop. Had Frankie guessing from the very beginning. I would have wrestled a little sooner, punched my way in, not just shot, but punched to a shot. Frankie's very good at like an overhand to a single leg.
Okay.
And that's something that I think it keeps your head out of the center line so you're not getting kneed in the head. But, he'd got kicked a few times. He'd got hit a few times. By the time he took that shot, sad to see. I'm glad he's done. I oddly enough, there was a memory popped up on my phone today from a couple years ago when he had fought, and I had talked about Chandler and Gaethje and him and all those guys, and like how many of these fights can these guys have? How many stand-up wars can they have and it not affect them forever?
Yeah.
And it's just it's impossible that it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
So I'm glad that he's done and not going to take any more trauma to the head. Hopefully he's good to go and fine. I'm going to hit him up probably later today, maybe tomorrow. I had talked to him before the fight a little bit, but I didn't want to bug him right after. But I definitely want to check on him, see how he is. I also want to message Chris and congratulate him because he looked phenomenal.
The knee, it looked like he did a really good job. It seemed to me it was a similar approach to Usman Edwards, where it looked like he set him up and got his head going down and then threw the knee. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, and he had to know at some point he's going to shoot, right? At some point he's going to take a shot on me.
Yeah.
And man, they say one of the things that they say goes as you're getting older first is the wrestling.
Okay.
The speed of the wrestling, and his shot just kind of looked like, here I come, and it was just bang, real quick hip to throw that knee. Yeah, sure, he's being set up for it, but he was also waiting for it. He was just waiting for that time.
Did you see? It seemed to me he, and I know this is typical, but it looked like Frankie was disputing whether or not he was out at some point. It looked like
I did not see that.
Okay. I mean, he was. It was clear, but I just wonder if he didn't know what happened and he was like, wait, what's going on? And was
I'm sure he was thinking that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for Chris. It was sad to see Frankie go out that way, especially in front of his family. It was cool. It was cool to see that his family came out to support him like that. It's an ugly way to see a family member go down.
If you listen to Joe Rogan and DC during that fight and afterwards, they talk about how brutal this sport is. And that's how all of the best guys in our sport go out.
Yes.
They go out trying to fight more, chasing that win, I don't know how many losses in a row Chuck Liddell had, maybe 6. And it's just very, very few people retire on top. Very, very few people do what Khabib did.
Right.
Not even on top, but just retire off of a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of cheated. I came back and fought 2 guys that were not that high level and beat them so that my kids could see me fight. They both had as many fights as me. I think they just had shitty records. And so I went out there feeling comfortable that I was going to win. I didn't have a high level last fight or 2. And it's sad to see, but when you're a fighter, that's what you do. You chase that victory, you chase that war, and unfortunately they all find it.
Yeah. I was super touched to see how humble Chris was after the fight. That was an emotional win for him. And it seemed as though he almost sensed there was almost a little bit of guilt in the way that it went down. Not that there should have been
a lot going on, man. I was really shocked to see Mark Henry there last night. So his coach, Mark Henry, that runs Elevation in Colorado, went to the hospital last week with a super bad staph infection that caused a super bad kidney infection.
Okay.
When they went into the kidney infection, they found cancer in his kidney.
Oh my God.
And so he now has to have that removed. And I guess surgery is going to come up as soon as the infection is a little bit better. But I did not expect to see him in his corner last night, and he was there. So that's one of the reasons he was a little bit, the way he was. He talked about it after the fight a little bit. But I knew ahead of time because I follow Mark, and I was reading his post when he was in the hospital. Super glad that they caught that, and that brought him to the hospital to get his kidney checked just to find that. So blessings for him, and hopefully everything's okay, and
yeah, for sure,
get back at it
for sure. I think that brings us to the fight of the night. I'm not seeing it here. Did Poirier Chandler? Did it earn fight of the night?
Yeah.
Man, what a war. I think this went exactly like everybody. Well, I think the first 2 rounds were exactly like what everybody thought it was going to be. Just 2 guys going in there, just banging on each other. Although now that I think about it, were you surprised to see Chandler go on the ground so much in round 2?
No. I mean, he can dominate there, right? And it was unfortunate that he didn't go there in round 3, but he gets, like I said, man, he gets tired. He's so muscular and fights so hard that he gasses and it takes it out of him. And I can see the second it happens in the fight. That happened in the first round, and fortunately he came out and got the takedown in the second round and dominated that position. He ended up getting that Dagestani handcuff where his arm was tied behind his back and was kind of beating him up from there. And Dustin complained afterwards, said that he had grabbed in his mouth to lift up. I want to say, because I've done it, that he was reaching for the chin to lift the chin to go under and his hand in his mouth. Whether he went in the mouth on purpose or not, I don't know. When I fought Pat Miletich the second time, I cut him open with the first punch of the fight. And then we were on the ground for 9 minutes, and he didn't do anything to me. He hadn't been punching me at all. And I literally, because I was a street fighter, took my thumb and I was digging into the cut of his eye, trying to make the cut bigger. And he said, "That's a pussy way to win a fight, Brennan." And I was like, "Well, you're so laying on me, Right. At the time, I was only a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I couldn't sub him. I couldn't get up. Yeah. And so I feel where he's coming from, if he did do it on purpose. But I tend to believe he wasn't. But Dustin thinks he was.
Yeah, it's hard to know that the ankle and it wasn't the first shot that they showed on the replay. It was the second one, and you could clearly see that his hand was pretty deep in his mouth, trying to pull that up. And then I think it was at the end of round 2, there was an exchange between Chandler and the ref because Chandler was hammer fisting what it looked like on the back of his head, and you even see Chandler look up and say it's not on the back of his head. And you could see Dustin going like, "Come on, are we really doing this right now?" To me, it looked like it was clear on the back of his head. What did you see?
Yeah, some of them were on the back of the head. I hate that rule because if you're punching someone in the side of the head and they turn their back to you, they turn their head, and now you're
Yeah.
punching in the back of the head, you get one, and then you can't anymore. It's like putting your hand down to not get kneed in the face. Don't turn your head around if you don't want to get punched in the back of the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was facing him. His hips were facing him. It wasn't on his back. And he had that arm trapped, and he was turning away so that he was punching the back of the head. So yes, he was, and yes, it's illegal. I just think it's I don't like that game to play. Turning your head so that you can't get punched. I mean, yes, I guess it's you're abiding by the rules, but and yes, Chandler was breaking the rules. I don't know if he thought he was hitting the ear or not, but I know that he gets excited. He's a very, very, very emotional fighter. Yeah. And Dustin said before that he finds it hard to believe that he won't be able to drag him into a dogfight, and if he fights him like he fought Gaethje, I'm going to clean him up. And he didn't. He did fight him like that at one point, and they both were back and forth. He didn't clean him up till they got to the ground, when he finally got his back. And Chandler made a big mistake rushing to the back. He should have stayed behind him and hung out behind him and beat him up. And he jumped in with one hook and tried to put in the other. And Poirier caught his foot and did an escape that James Krause actually was showing at his gym a lot. And he did it perfectly and got out. Now he was on top.
And that was what set up the rear naked at the end, right? Yeah. Was that when he spun around and ended up coming out on top?
Yeah. Okay. So went from Chandler being on Poirier's back to Poirier being on Chandler's back, and Poirier said, "Here, let me show you how to finish."
That was so slick, and he did get it in there. I
think Chandler, not to take anything away from him because he's one of my favorite fighters, I think he had a moment in time where he wanted out also. His nose got broken badly, and when it got hit, you watched the blood shoot out the side of his face from the punch.
Yeah.
From the rest of the time, he couldn't breathe. Yeah. And I think there was a split moment in there where he wanted out of there because he had Charles Oliveira on his back for almost a whole round and didn't get choked, and then Poirier took his back and choked him pretty fast. Poirier's a stud, but Charles Oliveira also choked Poirier.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of saw it. I was like, oh man, he looks like he's going to give him his neck. And it kind of looked like he did, but I don't know.
Poirier after the fight talked about jiu-jitsu and potentially it was interpreted that he was throwing some shade over Makhachev's way about his jiu-jitsu. I think, if Makhachev and Poirier end up going at it, I think that's going to be an interesting fight. And I think it'll be interesting to see what Poirier's jiu-jitsu does look like. I know Makhachev, they announced it during the fight. That deal with Volkanovski's a done deal now. I think that's happening in February.
Yeah. I think Makhachev beats Dustin on the ground as well. Dustin has got a great guillotine, but his overall game, I think it's going to look like Khabib, or Oliveira getting behind him and choking him.
Yeah.
That's how I see that fight if it does take place. But I don't know.
We'll see what happens. We got a little bit of time. Makhachev's got somebody else in front of him. So looking at ESPARZA and Zhang Weili, were you surprised at how this went down?
Yes and no. So Josh Hinger, one of my old students, was in Zhang Weiling's corner.
Okay.
And he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. He's a 3-time world champion. And I didn't know that he was training with her, but boy, it looked like it because when she got her back, that's his game. He takes people's back and strangles them. He's got guillotines, real great guillotines, and a nasty rear naked choke. And that's what happened. She scrambled to her back twice. And on that one, it was like she said that choke nicely. That was a great.
Go ahead.
She just dominated her from the start. Carla got hit a couple times, and I think she got a takedown, but instantly was kind of Zhang Weili was looking for armbar triangle kind of set up a little bit, and I think the round ended, right? Did it go the second round?
It did go in the second round, yeah.
Yeah. So it ended, I think, with Carla either on top or they had just got back to the feet, I think, and Zhang Weili threw a couple punches and then the round ended. And then you could see in Carla's face, like, crap, like she does hit hard. She's hard to take down.
Yeah.
Can't really do any damage to her on the ground because Carla does do a lot of damage to girls when she is on top and wasn't able to do much. And next round, where does it start? Back on the feet. And sure enough, she kind of took a head outside single, which you don't ever want to do because it's easy to get the back off of that. And that's what she did. She scrambled to her back off of that. And
so the stats are interesting. There's only one takedown credited in the fight, and that was for Carla. I thought there was more than that. And maybe it was just the way that they went down, but only
they might
one
not have counted the final ground exchange as a takedown because Carla shot. She spun behind and ended up behind her, kind of in a crucifix position, and then caught the rear naked choke from there. So no one really had a dominant position from the takedown. So maybe that's why. Did
Carla tap quick?
Yeah.
Did it seem a little too quick for you?
I mean, I don't know. I think again, the defense for the rear naked choke in the UFC is this.
Yeah.
Everyone waits. Like no one hand fights. No one does anything. They wait. They're like, crap, it's on. Yep, that sucks. What? And then they tap. And so there's not a lot of hand fighting, moving the arm. None of that. You rarely see that.
Well, and to attest to Zhang Weili's strength, I sent you a clip earlier this week of Zhang Weili in a training session with Ngannou. And she's, walking through, it takes a couple steps in, and then straight up goes in and picks up Ngannou by his chest and starts to put him on her shoulder. Like he's not 293 pounds. And I was just shocked. I mean, I showed that to my wife and was just trying to, it was just amazing to see somebody that's 5'4", I think, and, $125, I guess, walking around, whatever she was at, picking up a almost 300-pound Ngannou and putting him on her shoulder. Even Ngannou was like, holy crap, what just happened? Yeah, so I'm wondering if that strength played into, getting that rear naked in and how tight it was.
For sure. She's for sure super jacked. Like she is super jacked. So I'm sure she's very strong. And they fight at 15, right? They fight 115 pounds. So God knows she probably walks around at 35 maybe.
Okay.
But she looks like a tank.
Significant strikes was interesting. Total strikes 42 for Zhang Weili, 19 for ESPARZA, but significant strikes 37-6 for Zhang Weili. I mean, she kind of outfought her all.
She did.
It was interesting. I kind of wonder what that division looks like now, because now we're just playing around robin with the belt. These three ladies, ESPARZA, Zhang Weili, and of course Rose. It just seems like it's just in a circle of who's taking the belt from who.
Right.
So
I don't know. I guess they talked about Rose fighting her, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's. But see, so they've gone up twice, and they're one apiece. Is that right, Rose and Zhang Weili?
No, I think Rose beat her both times. She knocked her out one time with a head kick, and then she beat her by decision the second time.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. That
Carla
was Rose's.
beat Rose for the belt, and now Rose. Yeah.
That's right. No, you're right. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know where that division goes from there, but Dana's going to have to get creative, because I don't think. I mean, they're exciting fights, but I don't know that we want to just see those three ladies, fight, and maybe they go get somebody else.
Some of them are exciting. Carla and Rose are not exciting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, that brings us to the main event, the second of two title fights, Alex Pereira and Adesanya. Pereira takes him out with 2 minutes and 59 seconds left in the third round, TKO. First question I'll ask you was, did the ref stop? What's that? Fifth. What did I say?
Third.
Oh, yeah, fifth. Excuse me, yes. Was it an early stoppage?
No. he even said he trusts his corner, so his corner must have told him that it also was an early stoppage. I have a stoppage like that as well, where I was still standing, and as soon as the ref stopped the fight, I was like, what? And then I missed the 22 punches that landed on me in between. Then so I was bummed for him. I'm not even an Adesanya fan. I was bummed for him because I was cheering him on during the fight because he looked good. He was doing everything he needed to do. He was staying long. He was landing. What I didn't like was he didn't throw one teep. He didn't throw one push kick. When he was getting back to the fence and getting walked down and he was getting in his range, he'd reach out and grab his hands, which was ballsy, but he was doing it and it was working. He was getting out, but he never threw one just to keep him away.
Push that back.
Yeah, just for a little bit of distance or anything. He talked about, so everyone thought that he got a leg or a kick checked, and that's why he fell and went backwards. He said that he kicked his peroneal nerve, which is the nerve I talk about all the time, that those calf kicks kill. And that's why he did that backwards roll, and that he was kind of, a little bit off balance since that point. Possible. It did look weird when he stepped back and fell and did a backward roll, and then you rewatch and he didn't get hit. So I just felt like he didn't respect Pereira's power enough at the end of the fight when he was backed up against the fence. He let him come in and throw and tried to cover. And bro, that's not a guy you're going to cover on with 4-ounce gloves, Yeah. He should have known already what his power was like. And he was winning the fight. He looked great. And so I feel like he backed off a little bit and was kind of coast in and bring it into the finish line and end up eating a lot of punches.
A lot. How did you have this fight scored going into the fifth round? 3-1. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
3-1, and I think it was the second that Pereira won or the first?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like it might have been the second.
Yeah, I can't remember looking back now, but I had it 3-1, and I felt like he had done enough for sure to win.
They spent more time on the ground than I anticipated, and it didn't look like either of them were very comfortable there.
Yeah, correct. It didn't. Adesanya did a lot of good wrestling things once he was on the ground. His wrestling to the ground wasn't great, but he did a lot of dragging and weight forward, and every time Pereira would start to stand back up, it would drag him back down by the weight. And then he had a wrist control, which was stopping him from posting to get up. And he did some good things from there. No clue on how to take someone's back and choke him. Put five other guys. Put Whitaker, or someone else like that on someone's back like that. Yeah. And they're going to go hooks in and choke him. And that's a wrap. But instead he beat him up, kind of hovered around a little bit, wrestled him a lot, and did well right there. But he didn't have good enough takedowns to let him back up and have to do it again the next round. He needed to get him out of there, and unfortunately he didn't.
Yeah, my son had a bunch of kids over and they were watching, and they all came down pretty bummed too. I'll be honest, I don't have anything against Adesanya, but I thought it was kind of exciting to see Pereira come in there and I mean he lives.
Fights.
What's that?
4 UFC fights. Or not even 4 UFC fights. I don't know. Fifth total fight.
That was his 5th total fight, and he's got hardware now, and that guy's living rent free in Adesanya's mind for a long time right now.
Yeah, like Adesanya, they asked at the press conference, that's who he wants next. Dana said we have to respect him, that most likely that he'll give him that next. But man, how do you start camp thinking, okay, this guy's now beat me 3 times.
Yeah.
This is he's his Pat Miletich,
Yes.
I had a draw with him, but I had a draw in 2 losses, a split decision, but I still want that 4th fight.
Yeah.
Right. So of course Adesanya wants that 4th fight because the fourth one is all that matters. You know, if he wins one of them, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter the 4, 5, 6 before that. He's now the champion again, and get out of my way. You know, had he put him away last night or had he beat him last night, he'd have moved back and he wouldn't have had to mess with him again for a long time. You know, because of how fast he got there, he would have gone back just as fast. You know, but now he's there to stay and getting championship money.
It's exciting. You know, we looked at what Hamzat just did, and now we've got POIRIER that did the same thing. You know, we're seeing some new fresh blood coming in, you know, and it's exciting. It's pretty cool to see. Well, obviously we should touch on this. This is a little bit of a different format than what we normally do. Tell everyone where you're at right now.
Yeah. So I'm in Chicago right now, here for Lucas's fight next Friday night. I'm actually getting ready to go pick him up from the airport, but we're mobile right now. That's why we're doing it this way and trying it out. And hopefully, you know, I can start to get some guests on this way as well. And pretty cool. Hopefully it turns out good.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think it's going to work out. It's going to work out.
So I believe in you.
What's that?
I believe in you.
So this week you're picking up Luke, and what's the week look like for you? We'll finish off with that.
He'll probably, you know, he'll get here and be about maybe 10 pounds over, and we'll just kind of have an easy first couple of days and keep his weight down, do some training. We have a circuit that we do every camp. You know, every time we go to work out, we have an exact thing that we do, and he's got it down to a science now. He gets his weight on weight the day before weigh-ins. Nice. And then he drinks and eats little bits for the next 24 hours and makes weight, but that way he's never dying. He kind of just gets his weight down and still is able to put 20 back on after weigh-ins. It's not like he has a hard time putting it back on after taking it off at the end slowly like that.
Right.
He still comes back at 164, 5, 6, somewhere in that range.
It's awesome. And so, you guys have some press conferences and some things with
we'll have a rules meeting. He'll have a bunch of media stuff to do. We're in a beautiful hotel in Chicago overlooking what looks like the ocean, but it's Lake Michigan, but you can't see the other side of it. It's gigantic. Huge. Yeah. And it's a really nice place. So super stoked to be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm sure I can speak for a lot of people saying we're definitely pulling for Luke and for your team, and we're excited to see what happens this weekend. So
thank you.
Okay. I think that's it. Anything else before we go?
No, thank you guys. We'll once this one's posted shortly after, you'll start to see the reels for the Bellator 288 card coming up this Friday night.
We'll get things rolling.
It is all over.